Like for most hunting situations, a 30-30 is perfectly adequate. Still today. And then I would say, like, if you imagine all the deer that are going to be killed this fall, and you were to take like a percentage, how many of them are, close range shots and things like that, I would say in 80% of the cases, the 30-30 would do the job just as well as your brand new cartridge today. It's amazing how little things have changed.
But
Because
that's kind of
there's just not much to change, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's just, you have your casing for it, and then really the only thing to change is
the powder.
that's it.
and
Yeah,
Yeah,
how much
I mean,
powder can you put in it?
When
and that's
really,
it.
when it comes down to it, the cartridge is a brass container that we very minutely shape in different ways to do different things with the bullet. So you're right. There isn't that much.
There is
But
one cartridge though that I have seen and used that is the most different from any others, and it's the True Velocity, and it's a plastic casing, and it's not brass.
yeah, so that's it's not a separate cartridge. They'll load them in
Right,
6.5
it's just a
Creedmoor or
different-
whatever.
it's
Yeah,
just
it's
a
just a
different
different
style.
container.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is interesting. I'm not seeing the True Velocity really having a lot of commercial impact. Maybe if they end up winning some some military contract for being lighter weight, that could be interesting. I just don't see the advantage for hunters and just shooters and stuff. It's just as expensive, but now you don't get the brass to reload. I just don't I don't see the point
Yeah.
in it. And the SDs are low, but not like lower than what I feel like I can already achieve with brass. So I just don't get it.
What's the SD?
The standard deviation, so the difference in velocity between shots. You're trying to keep, same speed as much as possible.
Yeah,
Now-
so it wouldn't make any change for the hunters, you're saying. Just
Yeah, I
because,
don't really see what that does.
Yeah. But for military, that's kind of cool
Yeah.
that they could ship a whole lot of ammo for
Yeah,
a
if you're
lot
shipping
less weight.
pallets of ammo and now we can cut out the brass, that's cool.
I mean, I don't know how good that is.
Right. Let's help the military industrial complex. Now, that's not to say that cartridges aren't changing at all, because they certainly are. And so let's talk about kind of where cartridges have kind of come and where cartridge design is probably heading as we, move into the future. So older cartridges, let's take the cartridges like the 30-30. We used to see a lot more straight wall cartridges than we do now, with some caveats, meaning they didn't have a shoulder on a lot of the older cartridge designs. We started adding, shoulders into cartridges not very long after they became available. And then that's kind of been, the shouldered cartridge, the bottleneck cartridge that's what almost everything is today. In fact, the only cartridges coming out, rifle cartridges that are not bottlenecked, are cartridges that are intentionally straight walled just so they don't shoot very effectively to work in some states' short range weapon seasons. But other than that, everything's going to be a bottleneck rifle cartridge coming out today. And then really the only other differences that we're seeing between, older cartridges, your 30-06, your 270, we're seeing slightly sharper shoulders in some cases, but also tighter tolerances around everything. And so there's less free bore, there's less space around the bullet as it comes out of that brass and it's moving to the rifling. There's less space for it to get off of concentric as that bullet gets into the rifling.
So that would be more of like a change to the barrel, wouldn't it?
I guess you probably could, but it doesn't work that way. So, I mean, in theory, could you take a 270 case and now we change the actual chamber dimensions to make it a tighter fit 270? Sure. And that's what a matched chambering is. So sometimes you might take an older cartridge that exists, like a 300 Win Mag, let's say. A 300 Win Mag, it depends which reamer you're picking, because there are 30 different reamer specs for exactly how they're going to cut that chamber. And you will see a lot of, match grade, whatever chamber, older cartridges.
So you're saying that the barrels have kind of come to to this place where they're not really changing much, but the changes that they're making in the cartridges is like getting it bigger so that it has less room to move and spin inside the barrel?
Yeah, so it's a tighter fit to the case and the bullet, so that when as it's just so there's a little gap between where you know when I close my bolt and it slides that cartridge in, there's a little gap between when it's jumping out of the brass before it hits the rifling, and that critical little area there is really where these dimensions are shrinking, so
When
that that bullet can't get squirrely as it's entering into the rifling.
Oh. Oh, okay. But then once the bullet is flying full down the barrel,
Nothing's changed there.
nothing's
Yeah.
changing.
So really all the new cartridges that we've seen over the last 10 years are doing the exact same thing. They're just taking old successful cartridges and they're making the exact same changes to all those cartridges to quote unquote update them now that we have little tighter machinery. You take the 6.5 by 47 and we now turn it into a 6.5 Creedmoor with tighter dimensions around it. We take the 270 and we turn it into a 6.8 Western, and so we're moved to a 35-degree shoulder most of the time. We have tighter chamber tolerances, and we have faster twist rates in the rifling of the barrel so that we can use longer bullets and still stabilize them. And the longer bullets are going to give you better BCs or better aerodynamics of that bullet. And so it's that tighter bore, faster twist rate, and 35-degree shoulders. Ta-da! Like that's it. That's what all these new cartridges are. It's old design. Apply those exact same changes to them. Voila, new cartridge.
So you've always hunted, right? You've been kind of a hunter your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Back when you, not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily have to be when you first started hunting, but back when you were hunting or in the earlier stages of your life when you were a teenager, what was the cartridge you shot the most? Did you have a favorite, or was there just like one cartridge that everybody shot?
Well, the cartridge that I think everybody shot, and to some extent is still the case, is the 30-06. You know, just most popular in the hunting woods. For me, I didn't know no 30-06. I didn't have money for a rifle at Walmart. The rifle that we used hunting was a Mosin Nagant, a military surplus gun, because you get them for $90 at Dick's Sporting or Big Five Sporting Goods back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And so is shooting the 7.62 by 54R. That cartridge that really only exists as a military surplus cartridge today. So anyway, that's what we hunted with.
So now what is the cartridge you shoot a lot of cartridges, but what is the one that's your favorite one that you shoot, I guess, most often?
Hard to say, but last couple of years, if I hunted with anything most, it's probably the 6.5 PRC.
What's the biggest differences between those two cartridges?
Wow.
Between the 30-06 and the 6.5 PRC?
Yeah, I would say the biggest difference is, well, one, just the quality of the ammunition available, because one was a military surplus. But in terms of the actual design, I would say the biggest difference is not so much the tighter tolerances or anything like that. It's really just the ability to shoot those longer bullets, the higher BC bullets, which makes your bullet drop a lot less, and consequently, you're going to be shooting out to longer ranges than really was ever possible with a setup like that.
Yeah. Huh, interesting.
I'm surprised you say that the 30-06 is more popular than the 308.
That's a fine point. I don't know which is the winner.
I got
I was kind of thinking the same thing.
Yeah, they're neck and neck. I don't know.
You think so?
You're right. You're probably right. 308 is probably a little bit more common than 30-06.
Is 308? It's not nearly as old as a 30-06, is it?
No, it's not. The 30-06 is from 1906.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And when did the 308 come out? Is that kind of just right in between 6.5 Creedmoor and 30-06, or is it fairly new?
No, it's not at all new. It's 1952.
Okay, so it's still old.
Yeah, yeah, it is old, but it's hard to say which is more popular because I have got some data from ammo companies and looking on Google Trends at what the most popular is. And 308 always looks way more popular than it is for hunting because it's also a defensive round. You know, guys will get an AR-10 in it,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so it's tough to say how much it's used as a direct comparison in the hunting woods compared to 30-06. But I think you're probably right. I bet 308 is more popular than 30-06 in the hunting woods. This was a clip from the Backfire Mancast, our podcast that we do every 10 days. Check out the Backfire Mancast. It's the really purpose of it is there are a lot of things that YouTube doesn't allow us to say every week, and that's where we can say it. But here we give a couple clips of things that are suitable for the YouTube overlords.